afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. CBG is the crossroad of commerce, not only for the tri-state area, but we flow people and cargo across the global economy. And to that end, we are very pleased today to host a business community roundtable discussion convened by Senator McConnell to discuss the current climate and navigating the current climate in a way that achieves our long-term economic development objectives, not only for Kentucky, but again, the tri-state area and the area that is served by CBG and all of our scheduled airline, both passenger and scheduled cargo carriers. Although Leader McConnell needs no introduction, it is my privilege to point out, as everyone knows, he is Kentucky's longest serving senator, elected 9 times to lead the Republican conference between 2006 and 2024. He is also the longest serving Senate party leader in American history. As we talked about today at our roundtable, Senator McConnell has championed international foreign policy grounded in a strong national defense and our favorite, robust trade policies and strategic alliances and partnerships. And his leadership and his interest and his support is critical and has been and will be critical to the success of not only CBG long-term, but our regional economy in the tri-state area. So it is my privilege and pleasure to say thank you, Senator McConnell, for convening this important meeting today and spending time with us in the business community here at CBG.
Well, thank you, Larry, and welcome to your new job. It's just in honor of your new job, now we have a tariff war. I think it's important for everyone to understand that a trade war is ultimately paid for by taxpayers, by regular voters. The costs impact everything. I've had an opportunity today to talk to some of the people in various businesses here in northern Kentucky, but I can tell you it's true everywhere. And I've never been a fan of tariffs. I think one of the reasons I haven't, we've had bourbon wars in the past, and it's very easy for a foreign country to have a bourbon war because they don't make it and we do. 95% of it is made in Kentucky. So that sort of got my attention, and I noticed the Canadians, once this effort began to take bourbon off the shelves. Just at the thought that we were going to end up in a trade war with our friends, the Canadians. Another example, if people know anything about Kentucky, they know about the Kentucky Derby, and I just read that Churchill Downs has put $1 billion project on hold because of the uncertainty related to all of this. This is not something the Congress can do anything about because the President certainly has the authority to do this. And I know he believes strongly that this is the right way to go. Long before the President ran for President, this was my view. And as all of you know who cover Kentucky politics, Senator Rand Paul and I are actually on the same side, which doesn't happen every day. So those are some of my thoughts, and I think what we're trying to do today is our part in educating people about who ultimately pays in a tariff war.
I think I'm next. Senator McConnell. I think I'm next.
Oh, who's there? Okay.
Thank you, Senator McConnell. I'm Ashley Watts. I'm President and CEO of the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, which is the state's largest business association, and I'm happy to be here with Senator McConnell to express our opposition to the tariffs that have been imposed and to highlight the significant impact they are having on Kentucky businesses and Kentucky families. I was thinking about over the last week, Senator McConnell just kind of mentioned this, but last Friday, Senator Paul spoke to the Kentucky Chamber Board about his opposition to the tariffs. Yesterday, I was in Washington, D.C. with Governor Beshear at the U.S. Chamber, where he talked about his opposition to the tariffs. And today, I am honored to be here with Senator McConnell to talk about our opposition to these tariffs. And so, in these charged political times, we see, I think if the Chamber is standing next to Senator Paul, Senator McConnell, and Governor Beshear in our opposition to tariffs, it must mean that we are on the right path, and these policies have the potential to be devastating to Kentucky businesses and Kentucky families. I want to say that businesses, we understand the need for fair trade and ensuring a level playing field. And in no way are we asking for any kind of free pass. But a trade war is not the way to economic prosperity. Tariffs, as we all know, are essentially a tax increase, and they have far-reaching consequences for our economy. At the Chamber, we are trying to tell the story that these broad national policies have very local impact for our businesses and for our Kentuckians. For Kentucky families, it means less money in their pockets, costing them up to $3,000 this year alone. Representing businesses, we know they need certainty and stability. These tariffs are doing the exact opposite, making it difficult for them to plan for the future and invest in growth. What we are seeing is because of the uncertainty, businesses of all sizes are in a bit of a paralysis. I heard just today that our beloved Churchill Downs, the week before the Derby, is halting expansions because of these tariffs. And we are hearing stories like this from Kentuckians all over of all sizes of business. We are the proud home of auto manufacturing, agriculture, farming, and our signature bourbon industry. And we know the last time these tariffs hit our bourbon industry, Kentucky distillers lost over $600 million. These industries are being hit disproportionately hard, which will impact our entire Commonwealth. We are proud to have Ford and Toyota and GM and Corvette assembly plants right here in Kentucky. And we love that their final product comes directly from the Commonwealth. But we know that we are a global economy and that we rely on our trading partners and our allies, especially in Canada and Mexico, for parts. Sometimes those parts cross the border 3, 4, 5 times. Kentucky, we're a logistics state as well, and here at CBG is the perfect place to champion this. We are home to Amazon, DHL, UPS, and these tariffs are going to significantly impact logistics by increasing costs, disrupting our supply chains, and forcing our businesses to adapt their sourcing and transportation strategies. A business just this morning told me that they are committed to bringing manufacturing back to the U.S., but the uncertainty of the last several weeks has made it impossible to develop a strategy. We have heard that there could be short-term pain for longer-term results, but for Kentucky small businesses and for Kentucky farmers, they cannot survive short-term pain. I want to thank Senator McConnell for his unwavering support on this issue. We at the Kentucky Chamber are committed to working with all Kentucky leaders to continue to urge the administration to reconsider this approach and to advocate for policies that support Kentucky's economic growth and prosperity.
I want to mention one other thing I neglected to mention. You may have seen the study. If you haven't, my staff can get it to you. Kentucky, according to this particular study, as a percentage of GDP, our state is the most dependent upon trade of all the 50 states as a percentage of GDP on exports. On imports, we're third. So add it up, and we're sitting here today in a state that is extremely dependent upon international trade, whether it's trade coming in or trade going out.
Hi, I'm Rick Ross. I'm CEO of Gallery Candy over in Hebron, Kentucky. Self-made entrepreneur, started with $1,000 in my paper route when I was 15 years old. And we built our candy company to the 21st largest candy company in America, and we are in the top 10 for the seasons. Speaking on behalf of small business, it's extremely challenging. As a CEO, our responsibility is to our employees, providing job security to them and their families, and it's been very challenging now with these tariffs, where you can take a successful business and bring it to a standstill. There are so many businesses across Kentucky and across the country that are not going to survive the impact of these tariffs. When you see 145% tariffs added to product that you import to make other products as parts of products, it makes it really challenging to service your customers. We all have orders with big clients that were placed quite some time ago, and how can you deliver your orders when everything's on a standstill or the clients won't pay the prices because the increase is so high? So, you know, the biggest challenge is everything that just keeps happening so quickly. How do you plan? How will this affect your credit? Will the banks support you? And it just makes it very uneasy for small business. And I respect Senator here. I've known you for years. You've always done the right thing for business in Kentucky and for the country and for the confectionery industry, so thank you. And I know that this is tough for everyone. We all want to do what's best for America. My ask is for small business should not be collateral damage to the bigger agenda, and know that small business is the backbone of American jobs. But small business does not have the deep pockets of bigger companies, and companies are being halted, the closures are going to happen, layoffs are going to happen, and that's just not right, and we got to find a better solution. I think it's hard, people don't realize, but not everyone is large and has big balance sheets. And there's a lot of mom and pops that just won't survive this. My ask, and we hope that DC is listening, is to put on exemptions for small business under $150 million. You know, give them a 12-month break to find solutions and let them fill the orders they have so they can get money to invest in the future and do what needs to be done to effectively run their businesses on the policies the government is setting. But right now, if small business doesn't have a seat at the table and can't talk about the impact, there will not be a lot of small business. I support change in America, but let's not destroy the backbone of American companies.
Hi, my name is Richard Field, president of Post Over Resistors in Erlanger, Kentucky. We have 2 facilities locally. We've been in business in northern Kentucky since 1892. We're a manufacturer of equipment for infrastructure and vehicles. One of our biggest product lines goes into data centers. Just to give you an example of something that we're seeing now, we take orders, they're due in 2 years, we have firm fixed pricing. There's no way to change that pricing, yet all of a sudden I have tariffs. I'm importing HMIs, human machine interfaces, no different than a touch screen on a phone. It costs us $200, or it used to cost us $200. Now it's $400 out of China. If I try to buy it from any other country, it's $600. It's not made in the United States. I'm selling them for $200 whether I like it or not. I have firm fixed contracts. We're doing expansion here in town, at our biggest facility. And when the expansion's done, we're not going to fill it with any equipment because we can't afford to make an investment. We don't know what's going to happen. That $200 part sounds like only $200. It's $70,000 every other month for us in costs that we're going to lose. That's one of hundreds of parts that we're going through this process with. Some directly imported, some through distributors. There's no way to know what's going to happen until it's over months after the fact. We can't, the risk, the uncertainty, we can't manage our margins, so we're just stopping all investments, slowing everything down. For us to change an HMI, that's a 2-year project. These things go in data centers. I have to source new things, I have to program them, my engineers program them, put them in, beta test them for a year. You just can't make these changes this quickly. My ask is that we reconsider tariffs. They're putting a lot of risk, no matter the size of the business, but medium and small businesses are the ones that are going to suffer the most. I don't have an infrastructure in my business to have people out researching this every day. We just don't. Thank you.
Yeah, first question here is for Senator McConnell. There is legislation out there that would essentially wrestle some of the power from the president to Congress on whether tariffs can be issued or not. Is that something that you would support in the Senate to come forward as an ability to kind of wrangle the Trump administration?
Yeah, that obviously won't become law, but it's taking a look at the wisdom exercised initially by having all of this power in the presidency. And it was an indication of those of us who thought we ought to take another look at the way we currently handle tariffs. It's not an anti-Trump thing, in my opinion, but a structural thing. Should the president have 100% of the authority in this particular area? And I think some of us think Congress probably ought to have some impact on that.
And my second question is for either Rick or Richard here. Is the issue for you all the speed at which tariffs are being issued and being withdrawn? If tariffs were to be issued and left in place for, say, a decade, would that be easier to handle? What's the biggest issue with tariffs for you, or do you not want to see them at all?
Well, of course, we don't want to see them at all because it makes trade more fair around the globe. But if you just look at the last period when it all started, you get a 10% tariff, then you get another 10%, and then all of a sudden you get a 34%. And you find solutions each time for those challenges to take care of your customers, protect your company. But then you get a tariff for 74%, which is what put us in the embargo, and everything at a standstill. So change is always painful, but if you have time to adjust and plan. So if you have a contract, like I sell big retail, you know, you get a contract 9 or 12 months in advance. We've already started production, you know, for next Easter. We make 80 million Easter eggs. You don't make those overnight. Well, those contracts, as you were talking about, you know, are affected because they're baked in and you can't change the cost. And so I think knowing that there's going to be a new tariff, hey, you've got time to make a plan, you have the time to fulfill the orders you have, raise the prices of the new orders, is at least a responsible way to manage your business. But we have to deal with FDIC rules, we have to deal with our banks, to deal with credit insurance, all kinds of things that affect your business and investments and planning, and you know, you can't do that stuff overnight because we have lots of regulations. So I would just say that if it comes, it comes. We'd love to have time to react and make a proper plan and to make wise investments. When it changes every day and every week, all we've been doing is reacting instead of running our business and driving, you know, more growth to be able to protect our employees.
Yeah, I agree with Rick that we don't want tariffs. That's probably the first thing, but the unpredictability is becoming devastating. I was at a meeting this morning for production. We are missing a part. It's a part that's manufactured in France. We bring it in through a distributor in Louisville, and they're just holding it in France. They're on the hook for the tariff. They don't want to pay the tariff, so they're just going to put it on hold. That means an off-road highway truck somewhere else in the United States isn't going to get complete because that's the part that comes from us that allows that off-highway truck to work.
And I think it's the trickle effect. And then cash flow. All businesses, our number one priority is job security and managing cash flow. And so tariffs just take the cash right out of your business. And so how do you manage that? So there'll be a lot of casualties that I think are very unnecessary.
Thank you.
Senator, President Trump appears to be softening his stance on China over the last day or so. Do you see that as a good sign in talking about this continued discussion? And what more would you like to see to reassure everybody just that amount of uncertainty that you all are speaking about?
I'm sorry, repeat your question.
So President Trump over the last day or so appears to be softening his stance a little bit on China. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see that as a good step forward in this continued conversation, and what more would you like to see from the White House on this front?
What was the question?
President Trump has been softening his stance on China. Do you see this as a good sign, and kind of what are the next steps?
What is the next step?
Did I summarize that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just your thoughts on that?
Thoughts on softening the approach with China?
Yeah, well, look, I think the next step is what we're doing here today. I think the public needs to understand this issue is not about exporting jobs. It's a tax increase for everybody. For everybody. That's where the cost will end up being sent. And so this is part of the public education of the impact of a tariff war. It's also, for those who are paying close attention to it, remarkably similar to what happened in the 30s. It was called the Smoot-Hawley-Taft Bill, signed by Herbert Hoover before FDR came into office, which was widely thought to help move the Depression worldwide. And the slogan in the 30s was America First. So we've seen this in history unfold in a way that did not work for us or for other countries. And there's some of us who think, Mr. President, why don't we try something different? I'm very much in favor of extending the 2017 tax bill, for example. That's something Congress will be involved in. Congress has no impact on the tariff issue. That will stimulate business and not raise people's taxes.
And then just one question quick for Rick. Could you give an example, just you talked about that, hoping to get that period maybe to find those adjustments, just an example of a product or something that you guys use every day and the things that you're shipping out that has become a challenge with these discussions about tariffs?
Well, I think the biggest thing is things that are not made in America. So everybody drinks out of ceramics. Try to buy ceramics made in America, it's probably $5, $10. If you remember a few years ago, a big retailer announced they were going to make all their ceramics in Ohio. Well, that company went out of business in 2 years. You can't buy a handmade sewn plush or a ceramic or certain type of household goods that we pack candy and say for some of our customers. They're not available in America, we would buy them. So I think that, yeah, I mean, it's a real challenge because the infrastructure isn't here, there's jobs people don't want to do, and they're very competitive, made in other parts of the world, and it would be great to make them here, but no one's ever going to make them here. So it will impact people greatly because the costs will go up considerably.
Okay.
My question is for Senator McConnell. Senator McConnell, are you looking to have direct conversations with President Trump on tariffs? And is his trade war something that you would like to see a resolution to by the end of your tenure in Congress?
Well, the president does, I think, know how many members feel about this, but we also want him to be a success. And I think many of the people in the administration, in my judgment, have not given him the other point of view. And so, like in most public episodes, you have debates. And one of the things that we're trying to do here today is to further educate our voters. They'll make it clear to the president through the polls that are taken and other things and members that they speak with. And we hope he'll take a different direction.
I think we can do one more, please.
Rick and Richard, I obviously don't know what your political views or standings are, but do you feel betrayed by this this policy? What is your personal feelings as business owners, given the Republican Party has historically been the pro-business party?
It's not to you, Senator.
Good.
I know you, Senator. Very familiar with that.
Fair enough. Rick took the popular question. I'll take this. So, yeah, I mean, I think I knew that tariffs were coming. There was no secret that President Trump talked about tariffs. I guess we just didn't understand how they were coming, how quickly they were coming, without, in my opinion, the process and the rigor that you would expect to have happened, the announcements ahead of time, the checking everything. I think that's the big thing. So I mean, I wasn't surprised that there would be tariffs. I was absolutely surprised that there were tariffs of 125%. Nobody ever thought that, but I think we knew some tariffs were coming at least.
It's the same for us. We actually knew it would be some, but, 10, 34, pretty rough. But when you add 74 to it, there's, what solutions can you bring quickly? So I think that, again, what's important is we do what's right for the country. The trickle effect of this affects everybody, and I think it would be great if we would take more time to think it through and have a solid plan that we could all react to, make a strategy, and do the right thing, and work together instead of being at odds. I think that's what I would hope we figure out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A combination of this and not renewing the 2017
That's right.
taxes go up
Yep,
and your costs go up.
yep.
Yeah, it's a double hit. I wish you'd talked to you first. I wish you had talked to you about
Do y'all want to pop back over? We can go back over that room to swap with her. Sure. I want to.
Yeah, we have a couple of different businesses here. We have slightly different names.
I go back over to the room.
By the way,
It's part of the job, part of the job.